King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. I might warn you, this show might be a little bit longer than usual, because this is one of those episodes that I created this podcast for in the first place back on December 18th, 2012. And as I am right now embedded into episode 628 of the Wrestling is Real podcast, there is so much being said right now. An irate IWC, Internet Wrestling Community, that is at a fever pitch. And it's something to the epitome of what WWE can do when they need to go ahead. It's just like a WrestleMania season. What happened now in the last week, in the last 5 days, okay, I'm recording this on Wednesday night, since Friday night to today, and what has happened over 3 events they had in front of live crowds: SmackDown, Money in the Bank, and Raw. And I'll tell you, we can talk about NXT a little bit too, but when it comes down to everything that has happened now so far, and the level of vitriol and anger and frustration that is being brought upon by a number of people I listen to on podcasts over the last couple of days. And this is from veteran wrestlers like Busted Open, or this is from the likes of Don Tony or Anthony Missionary Thomas or JD from New York 206, or, Pickett, the Wrestling Observer guys. There's a lot to be said of the commentary that's out there, and specifically Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive. But I'm just saying, I want to go ahead and be able to go ahead and do on this show, give a voice of reason, a rational take from a business standpoint of what this company is trying to do. Try to interpret what this company is doing and why they're doing what they're doing with what they did so far to welcome back live crowds. The booking, the creative, the process. Now, there are still a couple of things we know that we're going to be embedded into the mix, that we're going to be the same old, that doesn't change from Thunderdome to live crowds. That happened. Not as much, because what actually happened this time around was we had a number of debuts, we had returns, and we had some moments of surprises to kind of stand out. We know what those are. Listen, you're going to hear me talk about Karrion Kross' debut on Raw. You're going to hear me talk about Keith Lee and his match with Bobby Lashley. You're going to hear me about Jeff Hardy getting a win over Karrion Kross. You're going to hear me talk about Nikki A.S.H. getting the cash into the Money in the Bank briefcase to become the Raw Women's Champion. Yeah, we're going to talk all about that. John Cena's return. We're going to talk about it. And I'm going to put everything into perspective. And we're going to talk about where NXT lies into all of this. I understand the frustration. I understand what everybody's talking about. And all the arguments are absolutely validated. But if you've been listening to this program for any length of time, since the beginning, I've always, it's as if some of the things I predicted beforehand that come true, that come to fruition, and then I hear people talking about it after the fact, because I'm not stuck in that WWE bubble. I'm a fence sitter. Since I started, I've always looked at other organizations. I've always been willing to go and talk freely about TNA, now Impact Wrestling, talk about Major League Wrestling, talk about NWA, talk about AEW when it came in, without any reservations about the fact that, that I might be isolating a fan base, or that I might get people upset because, I'm talking about the other companies when I should be talking about the Major League WWE, even though I talk about them 90% of the time. And I give the other organizations their just due. Because of the overall point, the reason the priority is on WWE on this show is because their success will elevate the success of the other organizations. That's how it has always worked for 40 years. Now, it might have been another time where NWA was a different thing, where AWA was a different thing, where World Class was a different thing. Like, there were other organizations back in the 80s that elevated, but then everybody elevated each other. And the environment was much different. The 90s WWE in a down period was forced to make changes. We all talk about the Attitude Era. We all lived it. Many of us that listen to this program, or you've watched it on the network, you've done your nostalgia, you've done your research, and you realize how many of those fans that came out in attendance that were diehard fans. They were not the laissez-faire family friends that brought the kids out to go and watch the shows. No, you got a lot of diehard fans. Your ultimate fan base, the ones that actually spend the money the most on merchandise, I would imagine, compared to those that are maybe just watching on the network and spending money on that and buying some merchandise and using it. But talk about the ones that are buying merchandise at the shows, wearing it at the shows, wearing it out and about, and really, showing the true colors. The fans that were clamoring at the bit to go and get back to the shows and go live. Because even the thought of some people might say, oh, well, COVID's still going. People are not wearing masks at the shows, but it doesn't matter. People wanted to go to WWE shows. They came back. And the company, whether you like it or you don't like it, learn to love it. So say Ric Flair. Learn to love it because this is the way it is. This company catered to the fans this weekend. And when they do that, sure, as diehard fans as we are, okay, we understand that some of the things that the fans are going to be getting, they're not going to be for the internet wrestling community. Because there are certain fans or certain stars that they would rather see pushed, but then we saw what they did. And I predicted it last Wednesday. What did I tell you? I'm not going to go play it back. But I said 2 words. Greatest hits. What I meant by greatest hits is that the veteran fan favorites were going to get brought back. And that's exactly what they did. The fact that Jeff Hardy, it was one of the epitomes. The Jeff Hardy Karrion Kross thing, it was one of the epitomes of what happened this weekend on Monday. Now, Jeff Hardy coming out to his 2000s, mid-2000s music, and getting to go and play that song out. Not the old Hardy Boys music as a tag team. He came out to the music when he was a solo star. As Karrion Kross is in the ring, waiting for Jeff Hardy to come in, because Karrion Kross came out first. And then leading into the fact that Jeff Hardy comes out and they reference his winning the WWE Championship in 2008. And making that point to validate the level of competition that Karrion Kross is going to be getting in his debut on Monday Night Raw. Which we were well aware of only about, a half hour earlier? Like they mentioned it at 9:30 at night. And then they showed us a brief package with no Scarlett whatsoever to be seen because she's not part of it. Now, this is the ongoing scenario for the NXT stars, which I'm going to talk about in the early part of my discussion tonight. This might go long, but I need to get all this in. It's just too much to compact. What I also need to do as well is start off the bat with the fact that there's been reports now that Daniel Bryan could be signing or has already signed with All Elite Wrestling. That's a very big deal if that happens. I mean, the mounting of the signings from Andrade El Idolo to Malachi Black to Daniel Bryan, it's just an escalation of signings that are of significant stars. They started a pretty big angle with Andrade going after the Death Triangle, introducing Chavo Guerrero as his consultant, which is a very good move. I think that was a very well-timed move, putting that together. It's almost the same idea as seeing how Bobby Lashley needed someone like an MVP to accompany him. Now, same thing goes here for Chavo Guerrero to accompany, which he looked good with the bald head, by the way. Chavo Guerrero doesn't look old at all, man. That guy has held up, and I'm pretty sure he can still wrestle. But in this case, he'll be assisting Andrade El Idolo in this whole point between Pentagon and Phoenix and Pac. So all of that is a very interesting storyline. I think the angle they put together was put together well. Daniel Bryan, there's a lot of people he could wrestle over there. And for him just to go and come in as Bryan Danielson, like if he's going to come back out basically in the same form that he was back in Ring of Honor, if that was the case, Like, could he come back in that same case? Could we see him come back as Bryan Danielson? That would be a big deal. The American Dragon. He's 40 years old. Now, yeah, he is. It's still amazing that he's able to go and continue to work as he's doing. He's not been working since April 30th. He's been out of contract since April 30th. And so here we are. So he could eventually make his way into All Elite Wrestling. And it was a report from bodyslam.net. And all of a sudden, we're looking that there might be some more that happens at this point when it comes down to what they're going to do. I just don't know. But I'm curious. That's a major coup if they get that. And it will be a testament to the company. And I'm going to get back to the report card that I was going to talk about earlier. But I got to make this point because this was breaking news tonight. The fact that Daniel Bryan comes over, much like Andrade or Malachi Black, except for the fact those guys were released, Daniel Bryan just let the contract lapse, run out. On his own terms, Daniel Bryan can make his way over. He is trending on Twitter as I talk about this right now. His impact will be much like a Cody Rhodes, much like a Chris Jericho. It will be an indication. It will be a message being sent to WWE, no matter how much they have done for that man, no matter how much they've done for him, the success that he has earned, because there is no doubt about it. His transition from Ring of Honor to WWE and what he has done in that company, he's been one of their top stars. I don't know why they have used him less or what the reasons are for his leaving in the first place. But it's probably because they're wanting to protect him from wrestling. And we already heard there might have been a chance that if he could go wrestling somewhere else, he was going to probably do that. And if he finished up his career, losing to in a WrestleMania match with Edge and Roman Reigns, yeah, okay, it's not a bad way to go out. But for him to make this possible jump and to sign with AEW, whether he could be helping to train the stars, more veteran players coming in to help the wrestlers improve their craft, having the talking ability, and being able to go and come out there and just go pure wrestling with so many stars and work with so many stars in the ring as a veteran looking to go and build talent up, much like a Sting, much like a Christian Cage, much like a Matt Hardy. That's a quality, and there's such a high quality veteran talent. One of the best wrestlers of our age, if he makes it over there. And I'm all in for it. I hope he does. And it will be another person that crosses the line to prove a point that you do not need to be at the end all be all of WWE to be successful. Which now will segue into my normal discussion. Discussion I already had planned. The fact that a Karrion Kross or a Keith Lee or a Rhea Ripley, or pick other NXT names you have. The mainstay of the NXT roster, these Ring of Honor mainstays, veterans, they were basically the heart and soul of Ring of Honor's infancy for the first 10, 15 years of its creation. From Samoa Joe to Roderick Strong to Adam Cole to Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, damn. All that right there, they have been the nucleus that has been towards the top of NXT for the last several years. They were the ones that replaced The Shield, the Wyatt family, losing Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, the Horsewomen, all of that. The heyday of NXT. That's not counting the fact that NXT isn't good now, but the purpose of NXT has totally changed. Now, let me make this point. And this is what I said about NXT on TikTok. Now, I'm going to make this point here. NXT is officially a non-factor. They are not a developmental territory. And the message has been made loud and clear from Vince McMahon himself, without even telling us that. This is what's got to be understood. I've talked about the signal from the noise. The signal is what the fans care about, what the broadcast partners want. the overall mainstream casual WWE fan. The diehard IWC entrenched fans are the noise. So only so often does the noise of the IWC reach to create a signal that WWE is going to understand and actually respond to. The last time they actually did that was, we're going to give you what you want. Remember when Triple H, Stephanie, Vince, and Shane were all in the ring? We're going to give you give the fans what you want. Remember that November, December episode of Raw? That was the last time they actually really did listen to the noise of the IWC and refer to it as a signal and respond to it as a signal with an empty promise. An empty promise that has continued today for over 3 years. Longer than that. Now, the stars, they're made inferior. This is not a testament to them on how well they can be. But we know there is a ceiling in WWE, which is one person that ultimately says make or break. And what are you going to have at your disposal to get over? You're going to get a chance to get over. That's the thing. You get equal opportunity to get yourself over. Are you going to get that much promotion? Are you going to get some pre-packages? Are you going to get to squash some people to lead yourself up to something? Are you going to come in with an undefeated streak? Right? Somehow, maybe you get a little bit of help. You'll get a crumb of help. Something a little bit here and there to help you get a chance because they have a little bit of faith in you. But if they don't, then look what they do. Hey, you know, when you look at things right now, it's pretty incredible. Maybe down the line, Riddle's going to become, he's already been a U.S. champion, United States champion. He could probably be a tag team champion with Randy Orton pretty soon. And that guy's getting over. And out of all the people that you saw walking through from NXT, from Karrion Kross to Keith Lee to Ricochet to Aleister Black, like pick, did you think Riddle was going to be the one? I didn't. I didn't think there was anything wrong with Riddle. I just thought he was one-dimensional, and I think it was too soon for him to be brought up. But, hey, they got it. Lightning in a bottle. He's working. He's effective. He's over. And people are pretty much behind him right now. That's what happens. With NXT, this is a message to their locker room. This is a message. Now people want to say it's Triple H. I disagree. Triple H probably understands what's going on here. He's doing the best with what he has over there. He's made a very quality product. That's why the IWC is so behind it. They defend to the hilt NXT. When AEW was being used, when NXT was being used as a conduit to stifle and to disparage the growth of an AEW Dynamite program on Wednesday nights, when that was used as a roadblock and it didn't happen, mark my words, it wasn't Triple H that was feeling the effect of this. The message being sent now is to the NXT locker room and all those people in the Performance Center and everybody in Orlando that's working out of the Capitol Wrestling Center. All those people that work on Tuesday nights. Look at that. Your NXT champion. He comes onto the show. We're not even going to give him the proper entrance. The entrance that gets him over. Like the entrance alone, just like Aleister Black, that got him partially over. And then it was the rest. His promos, if it was done right, his work in the ring, because he was awesome in the ring. There's no doubt about that. And then we get to here, and then Karrion Kross comes out. We all know how good he is. He is doing the same gimmick into a way. He's working an amplified gimmick of what he's been doing on the indies. TikTok, the eyes, the facial features, the anger, the violent streak in him. He's been doing that for years. He did that in Impact Wrestling, right? TikTok, he did an Impact Wrestling with Austin Aries and Moose, right? That was way before and years before that. But the WWE actually gave him the chance to amplify, to use the resources, to create this amazing gimmick, to bring his woman, Scarlett, accompany him as well. And then this whole great, wonderful project. Hey, Karrion Kross, regardless of what happens to him with a loss, that's going to be discouraged by the fact that this guy lost on Raw. Your NXT champion, he was made to look like a chump. Some people are going to think that. Now, I'm going to justify the fact and say that Jeff Hardy gets asses in seats still today, regardless of all the issues he's had with DUIs of his own. Obviously, don't care about that, but he's been behaving, and he's been working hard, and he's been doing what he's been told, right? He's been a good company guy. And when they need to heat him up, they can heat him up, and they do. Look what they did. Goldberg, hey, he lost this last couple of matches. All of a sudden, just bring him out there with that entrance. The fans will start chanting Goldberg like it was WCW in 1998. Like it was Georgia Dome. It sounded like that. Hell, as soon as the Goldberg music came on, it was like magic. It's like, okay, Lashley's Hollywood Hogan is, August 6th, 1998. They're in the Georgia Dome, and here comes Goldberg coming out to go win the title. Right? Holding U.S. title in hand, and he's getting that Goldberg chant. Big, major pop. Can't deny that. It doesn't matter. It's just that that's what the crowd is going to eat up. And that's what they did. What are you going to do about that? Karrion Kross, to most of that crowd, is unknown. They don't know him from anything. Proper phrase in Cuba, to my Cuban family, is like, yeah, and I don't want to, if it's translated loosely to say, he's known at the lunch table in his house with his family. He's known by nobody. We know he's not. Diehard wrestling fans know who Karrion Kross is. Diehard wrestling fans, like myself, have carried the flag, have carried water, and have defended, and have propped up Karrion Kross to a point. So there's no question that I felt disappointed that they decided to go what they did. But give benefit of the doubt. It was a cheap win. It was a shitty way to win. Jeff Hardy played a heel move, a crafty veteran move. And to start the streak, you're getting Karrion Kross onto Raw now with a chip on his shoulder. But no reference to it on NXT last night. No, they're just continuing the story with him and Samoa Joe, which is a great story. And if that match is coming up, awesome. But the presentation on Raw, that's an afterthought now. Because people are going to make it an afterthought. They do not want to think about what happened with him. They don't want that. And so that's one of the things that people are going to be very upset about. I get it. But the company, overall, when you look at the broadcasters, the shareholders, the people that say we're going to go to this live show, how much are we going to make on Karrion Kross tonight or future nights coming up? It's going to take time. They're going to basically have to reset with Karrion Kross when they bring him on up. Just like it took time for Ricochet to go and be something significant. Just like it took time for Riddle. I don't know if Keith Lee would have done any better if he had been taken off of TV for 6 months or if he was able to stay on for TV for 6 months. But the Thunderdome was the Thunderdome. And some of the things that happened at the Thunderdome were not going to resonate well with fans. That's why it got nixed. All right? That's what's going on here. The crowd is going to go ahead and pop big for a lot of things that they did. Because what did they boo? What did they hiss on? What did they call boring on any of these nights? Nothing. When I saw polls for every show on Twitter, pick it. If it was Bustin' Open putting out a poll, if it was the Solo Monster, if it was Wrestling Inc., or, whatever ones you want, if they all put polls out, all 75% yes, thumbs up. Overall, the crowd responded well, and the ratings also reflected. So the IWC, they want to be right, but they're wrong this time. SmackDown got 2.3 million viewers. One of their best numbers in a long time. I think since March 2020? Raw almost pulled 2 million viewers on Monday night. I mean, that's what it is. So that's reflected correctly. But NXT, when you look at the last few months, pulling roughly, what, 700,000 viewers, roughly. Now, last night, even with the NBA Finals, there was a Game 6 of the NBA Finals, the show did get 709,000. And you look at the 2020 year of NXT, the most they've gotten is 734,000 viewers. Oh, no, 768,000 viewers post WrestleMania. Oh, no, that was TakeOver Stand Delivered Night 1. So, TakeOver episode. And then when they did the Tuesday night time slot, well, that's the other thing. How about the best example of NXT and seeing how well they do? Post WrestleMania, the audience has dropped. Remember, it was post TakeOver episode, first time unopposed on Tuesday nights. 805,000, then to 841,000, then dropping, and then going a little bit back and forth, and then going into Memorial Day, dropping below 700,000 viewers, and they have not gotten back up 700,000 viewers since, except for last night. And that's about it. That's where they are right now. Inferior product. I mean, it pulls a number with a rating decent enough for the 18 to 49 on USA Network, which is fine. But it's not pulling 2 million viewers like the stars that they want to go and push on Raw and SmackDown. They'd rather go and put out Roman Reigns or Bobby Lashley or Jeff Hardy or Goldberg or John Cena. Those are draws to them. Okay? Keith Lee made inferior because he was just a conduit. He was just a gateway to give a confrontation over Goldberg. So he had a surprise opponent for the open challenge for Bobby Lashley. A bit of a glorified squash match to get Lashley over with a strong opponent after winning over Kofi Kingston. And then Goldberg comes out, and all he's got to do is, I'm next. And that's an instant feud. Hey, for Lashley, that will be another opponent for him to put over. Because eventually, it's not just Goldberg he gets a chance to go and take on, because, according to contract, Goldberg has to fight somebody. He's already signed to go and do 2-3 matches a year. And there's no Saudi Arabia matches or any other overseas shows he could be working at. So they got to use him somewhere. Why not a SummerSlam? Give Lashley an opponent. Instant opponent. There you go. So Goldberg gets to work his match. Lashley gets an opponent he can get over, thus cementing him even further as such a strong champion. And by the way, when it comes to Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal and all these others, you're talking about people besides the NXT stars. We're talking about people that have been with the company since their beginnings, that they all started and developed with WWE. The fact that it took some of them 15, 16, 17 years, that's another story. But Drew McIntyre was around here for well before that. Bobby Lashley being around. Remember, these guys go back to Ohio Valley Wrestling. That's how far back they go. And they might have had some success before. Lashley got close to the title. Or didn't he win the title in 2006, 2007 it was? And he also did the WrestleMania match, right? Hair versus hair. Vince versus Trump. And then after that, fell out of favor. Worked his way back, chip on his shoulder. And I'll tell you, Vince loves those stories. He loves to see somebody come back. Vince, I worked hard to get back to your good graces. I wanted to show you that you gave up on me too early. You should have stuck with me. And they're getting rewarded. Drew McIntyre was rewarded for all this time, for his hard work and for his efforts. And how him and Jinder Mahal working together, they're trying to build something, man. They're trying to get Jinder Mahal back over because he needs to be another big international star for when they go out to India or go out somewhere else. And Drew McIntyre, also a big European star. You get the stars from around the world, and you get some of these stars to get over big. big Asian stars, Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka and the things like that. You're doing things for specific purposes. World Wrestling Entertainment. So you have the best in the world. So Bobby Lashley, whatever they decided to use, regardless of the value that Keith Lee should bring or can bring, it doesn't matter. He came from NXT, an inferior product compared to the main roster. But that is not taking away. I don't think of it as an inferior product. But I also know it's not a developmental territory anymore. They're not developing talent. Not like that. That breakout tournament, maybe something will come of that. To become a star on NXT. But will it be a main roster star? No. I don't know. Those are very rare. But we know the system is, if it's an NXT star that's going to make their way up to be called up to the main roster, they're going to have to start over again. And maybe there's a little bit of what they got to do in NXT that will be transitioned over. But more than likely, we already see that it doesn't. Look what they did. We know it. And some people just take a lot longer. I mean, hey, Nikki Cross. Sanity. It felt like it's been forever since Sanity. And since the change of that character. And all of a sudden, working. Thrown into a lot of different things. Being the lapdog for Alexa Bliss for years. As her tag team partner. And then, hey, she does a superhero gimmick. For whatever reason, she gets the Money in the Bank briefcase. She cashes in. She's Raw Women's Champion now. For many people, we're a little perplexed by that. What? Why? I'm very happy for her. She has worked her ass off. And she's so liked. It looks like in the locker room. She just seems like she's a wonderful girl. And so, for somebody to work so hard and to be rewarded, good for her. Good for her. Now, but here's the thing, too. You can't think that some of these stars coming in from NXT that get called up are absolutely going to be washes. You just can't assume they're buried and done. Because they do this all the time. And sometimes it's just to prove a point or to teach a lesson. Like, do they need to be taught a lesson? But you know what? Vince McMahon has been doing like this with other wrestlers for years. And that's what happens. Hey, at least you got a job. Right? Karrion Kross getting buried. He's not getting released tomorrow. That guy was on NXT next night working in a major event angle with Samoa Joe. Main event angle. He's still NXT champion. He didn't lose that. I mean, he's not going the way of Aleister Black or Andrade. I mean, hell, even Zelina Vega was let go, and then they brought her back. And they made her somewhat relevant now. Hey, happens. Not much of a rhyme or reason, but sometimes you eat a little crow, you get your chip on your shoulder, and you prove that you are worthy of being on the roster. Is it the right thing to do? Some people say no. They're probably right. But this is the way that, as long as Vince McMahon's there, that's the way it's going to be. All right? I mean, that's just what they're going to do. Even with with the stars they've had on the dole for years, that's what they're going to do. I mean, Jinder Mahal keeps getting opportunities. Hey, they bring him back up, made him made him a champion. He was long-term, what was it, the WWE champion. He was a champion. Nobody asked for that, but you know what? Rewarded for all the years he's worked in NXT all the way to now. And sometimes it's just how it works. What they decide to do. I mean, NXT was at a different time when they first started NXT. It was still being run like a developmental territory, but then it just changed. And really, the change of the show going to USA Network and now being used as a proper commodity that was really making its own money. Because remember, all those years of developmental territory, remember that. It was one of the sectors that was losing money. If Nick Khan would have had NXT, it was still on WWE, on the network, right? On WWE Network, if NXT was still there and losing money and going on house shows, it was a developmental territory. It was losing money for the sake of business. Now that show instantly gets $40 million a year. It's making money. Be lucky they haven't decided to drop that, because they could just keep the Performance Center and not do NXT on television. They could take that show away, but they're not, because it's making money, because it's got a home on USA Network and it's making $40 million a year. Be happy with that. We do get a little bit spoiled. The fans here, you know, we live around what the wrestlers are doing and what they're working on and how they're handling things. Yeah, this sucks to have this happen to all these stars. And I get it. Nobody likes this. But what are you going to do? Right? I'm just saying. No one likes to see this all going on. And I understand that. So what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to just stay pissed? Or are you going to... Is it going to matter if you turn off the TV now? Oh, Karrion Kross got buried. Click. I'm turning on something else. What are you going to do? Most TV fans, you don't really care about AEW or Impact Wrestling or MLW or NWA or Ring of Honor. You don't care about those other companies. You only care about one. Some of you might be selfish. Hate to break it to you, but you probably are. And you want to take your ball and go home. You want to be upset like that. Well, you can't let the stars that you want down. You keep fighting. You keep arguing. You keep, frothing at the mouth for Keith Lee to get his spot. You keep doing the same thing for Karrion Kross to make his deal, for Rhea Ripley to make her deal. You have to do that. I said the crowd response. You have to create signal from the noise that you do. Just to have this constant noise of just, apathy and, just constant cynicism, that's not going to work. You have to come collectively. Daniel Bryan was a reality. As a response to the company, they said, okay, that can still happen. I mean, you could do campaigns to get the yes movement to come in and become something again. You could do another one of those, but nobody has anybody they're going to get behind like that. And NXT stars, no. But nobody's getting that kind of groundswell to get that. And also, the wrestlers can only do so much to do that for themselves. Hey, Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona, he did it. The YouTube show, he created his own groundswell of support to get himself somewhere. They made him a U.S. champion. He got to get thrown off a wheelchair off the ramp on Raw with Kane. Right? All these things going on. You have to realize that you let it sting for a little bit, sure. But you got to go ahead and get past it. Chip on your shoulders. But more importantly, it's the wrestlers that have chips on their shoulders. The bottom line is that in the eyes of corporate, not just Vince McMahon, but WWE as a whole looks at NXT as another product serving a purpose of taking a number of stars from other organizations, creating their own indie product that is able to go and put an alternative product out there for wrestling fans that pulls better numbers than most other wrestling shows except for AEW. They got a Tuesday night wrestling show that is as prominent, that was competing regularly with AEW. But all they did was just work with what they had. I mean, the fact that it stayed, I didn't ever expect it to go ahead and stay and be able to go ahead and outmatch AEW with that large main event roster. I mean, the stars they bring in there, that's because of all the resources that AEW has, the effort being made because they're doing something that's counter programming. And that movement, those are people, AEW is full of people with chips on their shoulder all together. And they're doing what they're doing and really putting out some pretty quality product. Can they start getting themselves back up to 1 million viewers per episode and not just a random episode? I want to see what the ratings look like tomorrow or Friday and see what they become. Because, again, you have to keep an eye on the rear view mirror. All this infighting, okay? The IWC is creating noise, but the signal is what's really important is the fact that WWE is doing what they need to do post-pandemic, post-Thunderdome. They did what they needed to do in the short term to turn things around. Bring back greatest hits, bring back veterans, get stars over, create surprises, pull into their Felix the Cat style bag of tricks. That's an old reference. Just go Google it and you'll find out. They're pulling from their arsenal of surprises and swerves and all that shit. They're doing all that right now consistently for as long as they can, probably all the way up through SummerSlam, as their WrestleMania season that they didn't get to do originally. They're doing the WrestleMania season now in this next 5 weeks. So we're going to have some heydays of great, pretty compelling WWE programming, the best they can give us. And the best they can give us is okay with me. I'm not going to nitpick and complain about the fact that certain stars are not getting over like they should. Like, I'll make comments about it, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to go fasting, and I'm not going to go ahead and, throw a hissy fit over it. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm a reasonable wrestling fan. I'm a rational thinking wrestling fan. So for business, they're doing what they need to do. Now, I've stuck on the same couple of sentences for the last, 30 minutes plus. So, Rhea Ripley losing the Raw Women's title. So Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair can go after each other. Charlotte Flair winning the title on Sunday night and now becoming transitional. Hey, she won it. And people don't like that Charlotte Flair continues to be on top, but you know what? She's a draw. She makes money for them. She has been, it maybe not always been her, but when she has not had good matches with a number of stars that are part of the other draws in the company. When Becky Lynch comes back, why are they yelling at Charlotte, we want Becky? They're not doing it with Nikki A.S.H or Nikki A.S.H. They're not doing it with Bianca Belair. I don't think they're doing it with Carmella. Charlotte and Becky, we love that feud. We'll bring it back. Yeah, bring it on. I'll take it. So Becky Lynch, she's going to draw, and she did draw. And now she'll come back, and Charlotte Flair will be right there because those two make money together. I mean, how many women's stars do you have right now? And you could truly build an Evolution pay-per-view again. The women's Evolution. At a time when the company was actually kind of giving back a little bit to the fans. Kind of responding back, being responsive. Hey, women's pay-per-view. You guys are going to love this, right? Here, Daniel Bryant, we're going to give you that. We're going to give you some gimmies. And the company, for a while, was a little bit responsive. They were like, we want the fans with what they want. And they started giving some things. So, the women's movement, give divas a chance. Hey, groundswell. Let me say it again. Yes movement, give divas a chance. Groundswell. That's how you move mountains with WWE. That's how they respond. But this little infighting, this little, hissy fitting, the pouting, the anger, the gnashing of teeth, that's not going to work. They're not going to change. But what they are doing, which I need to give them credit for, which I am going to give them credit for, and they're always going to get credit for, is that they did make changes for the better. Nowhere near perfect. But they're on the right track. They're going back to greatest hits. They waited for the live fans to come back to do it. And they're doing the right... Listen, they got a plan. They're executing it. And it's getting executed. It's doing pretty well. Positive reviews, ratings up, sold out crowds for all three shows. That I call success. That I call is what the number one wrestling promotion in the world does. When WWE is on their heels and they need to go and make their way back, they do it. And that's the good for the wrestling business. Because every wrestling promotion, from NWA to AEW to Ring of Honor to MLW, they all benefit. Every indie wrestling promotion, the fact that wrestling is back in front of live crowds and the kind of press, the kind of adulation they're getting, they're on their groove right now. They're getting their groove back. regardless if you like the way it's being done or not. That benefits all of wrestling. So for that, their report card gets an A. They're getting an A right now. The IWC would say less, but they are getting an A. They're doing what they need to do, what they're able to do. They're going to go to the greatest hits. That's the choice they have to do. They're a rebuilding company. They do not have the star power as years before. You can only live up to The Rock and Stone Cold and Mankind. Like, yeah, how did they let themselves go to the point where they lost all that talent and they had nobody to replace it? Well, they haven't answered that question yet. They haven't figured that out. They're probably not going to. Maybe not until Vince goes away. Never said it was right, but that's just the way it is. Not to mention NXT also getting best ratings. So all the shows are up. Things are going well. The live show insertion of WWE has worked effectively. It's succeeding. Right? They're going to do the big SmackDown show from Rolling Loud and from Cleveland. Miami and Cleveland. They're going to do the dual show. That's going to be a pretty cool thing to see. Nobody's talking about that. That's going to look really cool, I think. Live matches at the Rolling Loud Festival? Man, that sounds like fun. The fact that they're going to probably do other shows, that's even better. And so the company overall is really on a streak right now. And people are complaining about it. People are upset. Irate IWC. People calling it a trash sandwich. Brian Alvarez wanted to call it a shit sandwich on Raw. They praised Money in the Bank. They thought SmackDown was a pretty good show. But man, Raw, they were just all over it. Now, I'm not disagreeing about the booking. But you can't disagree about why they did it. And why it works. It's just smart. It's smart. For them, it's the best move they can make. And they did it. Nobody likes that. Sure, listen. Repeat matches now referred to as championship contenders matches. Continuing rematches. Rework matches with the same talent working the same storylines. Yes. You don't like the greatest hits. Utilizing veteran fan favorites. The game plan for live fans that I said WWE would do. Well, they did it. After the handful of surprises and returns they could pull off with live fans and attendance runs out. Then they're going to have to worry about, well, then what are they going to do for WrestleMania season? Well, they got some plans. But can they stretch this out to the end of the year? Can they stretch this out to the Rumble? That's the mission. They're hitting goals right now. And no one likes that. But they're getting stars that are drawing. By the way, all those releases that we saw this year that we complained about as well, sounds like it paid off for them as well. Because if they had to recoup losses, first of all, if they had to go and take money away from the staffing in corporate, right? Taking all those jobs away from the digital video division. Consolidating, remember? The changes they made to the talent and releasing all that talent, which now quite a few of them are making their way to AEW or Impact or other places. But in the full crux of what WWE had planned to do to get live events back up, because they needed to go ahead and take some of the funding and rework some of their budget. Which, I mean, yeah, they got a budget, but they're making billions of dollars hand over foot right now. The most money they've ever made as a company. But being a lean, mean machine running their shows. Listen, even the staging of the show right now. Do you notice? Yeah, they still got the pyro and all, but they're using the AR technology, the augmented reality technology. They're using their multi-dimensional system to do like the openers for the stars coming out. And they got a clean stage, which is probably pretty easy. It's still pricey, but effectively pretty practical for them to go and put up a big, large video wall and that large, long stage without all the extra props they used to have around that. No big fist, no other like little, standard things that they have around the ring. Even for the pay-per-views, they don't put anything extra around the ring except for the WrestleMania pay-per-view. Maybe SummerSlam will probably get some set that will be very, structured because of the Allegiant Stadium and what they're going to be doing there. I think they're going to be doing that. They're going to make SummerSlam look like WrestleMania. And ultimately, the short-term mission, if they're able to go and sell out Allegiant Stadium, even with a competing boxing match, a big money boxing match going on the same day in Vegas, which Vegas, they're going to put priority over the boxing match, over Manny Pacquiao fighting a legendary boxer in one of his last few matches he's going to have as a major draw before he retires. So someday, sooner than later, if this company is able to go and pull 70, 80,000 fans jam-packed in Allegiant Stadium and pull off a good show, then all of these things that we complain about, all the things that they've done to the ire of the wrestling fans will have succeeded beyond reproach. It will have succeeded to expectations, to what they expected to do. And who will be overall adulated by the stock market, by corporate America, by major broadcasters, by everybody in business? Their friends. Vince McMahon is going to get praised. Nick Khan is going to get praised. Learn to love it, because WWE is the best thing going today. I know people don't like to hear that. I know you want it to be different. And I thought Raw was actually a pretty good show on Monday night. Sure, you want to go and break down the fact that some of the things they did on that show, if you wanted to break it down, yeah, all the rework matches, I really just kind of let myself I've already accepted it. I tolerate it. But I think people could agree that Raw wasn't a show that wasn't newsworthy. It wasn't a boring show. Some of the booking might have been suspect. You know, Alexa Bliss and Eva Marie and Doudrop and Eva Marie stepping over herself. Okay. The Symphony of Destruction match with Jackson Riker and Elias. Yeah. Like, you could pick on a number of things that you didn't like on the show that really just like, it's the same bullshit we were seeing in the Thunderdome. But I'll tell you, from the last Thunderdome Raw last week to this Monday night, night and day better. And the ratings reflected that. And by the way, you know how we always talk about, well, if you noticed over on Fox, SmackDown always has their major presenting sponsor of Progressive. Well, you notice this week, all over the show on Raw, on the NBC Universal owned USA Network, now there's a presenting sponsor on Raw for Liberty Mutual. Those are two of the biggest insurance companies that spend the most advertising dollars of any companies. The only companies that probably spend more than them are McDonald's and Home Depot. But WWE, they're able to get major sponsors, Progressive and Liberty Mutual. Those are sponsors you get for sporting events. Because you know that if you watch NBA, NFL, whatever, any major events, there is major cash being hauled through Progressive and Liberty Mutual because those guys spend on ads all day, every day. If you're watching television, cable or network, maybe sometimes you're watching through YouTube or wherever, I'm sure you can't get away from seeing at least one Progressive or Liberty Mutual insurance commercial. Geico would be the other one too, because all the insurance companies do that. But they got insurance companies, the ones that spend the most cash on advertising. They're putting it on those shows to get that audience. You have to understand that they are doing good, great business. But what they need to do is improve their product for the long run. They have to tweak the mission and get their creative and make sure they got stars to go. But you know what they're going to do? Dolph Ziggler in like 5-10 years will become this new star that all of a sudden they take him off TV for Raw, and all of a sudden he comes back out and he's like, I'm doing it for the world, or, you know, whatever. He's going to come back out. He's going to do his thing, and that guy's going to be as hot as he ever was. He'll be as hot as when he cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase himself over Alberto Del Rio. What if Alberto Del Rio came back? That guy would get a huge pop too. Could you imagine if we start the mariachi going and that guy comes back out with the scarf? You're telling me that guy's not going to get over with a major pop? Yes. He's been off TV for years. When Sheamus decides to go, like, he kind of slows down on his matches, and then they bring him back in 5-10 years, and that going to be a big deal too. When Randy Orton starts getting, gets no longer on this quieter schedule, and then he becomes one of those part-timers like an Undertaker, and all of the, I hear voices in my head. And you know what? That guy's going to get a John Cena pop like John Cena got on Sunday night. Bet your bottom dollar. That's just how it is. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Listen, you're going to listen to a lot of other podcasters. And my podcast, brother, listen, I don't dissuade you from your comments. I appreciate it. Okay, I still listen to all of you, and I am in awe. You guys have bigger audiences than I do, right? And I don't conform to do the stuff that the WWE does. Like, I'm not going to just do stuff and just do the gossip and the palace intrigue and all this other shit and talk about certain, sleazy, whatever gossip of this and that person here and there and talk about that. No, I don't do that. And the fact that I'm not going all hardcore WWE and doing, greatest, go to this, or best tag teams, or best this and that, I don't do that either. I isolate a little bit of this crowd, right? Because my fans that listen to these shows, they hopefully get kind of a smarter perspective on what wrestling is. Like, I'm not acting like a casual fan, just being a fan and say, John Cena is great, yay, hustle, toil, loyalty, respect. No, you don't get this from this program. I've never been like that. Tonight is the epitome of what I want to talk about. Man, I thought I was going to go longer, but actually I got it down to an hour. I got everything. So there are still people they're working on. There are projects in progress. Omos is still a project in progress. Maybe not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Damian Priest will go up against Sheamus. That's next. And that's Damian Priest still getting a chance to go and get over. Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, I don't get what they're going to do with that there and what they're doing. Reginald, 24/7 champion. They gave him a reward, I guess it is. I don't know if that's going to be much or anything. Jinder Mahal has Veer and Shanky. They're trying to build those guys up. Probably next Indian version of Authors of Pain. Who knows? Maybe Karrion Kross and the fact he lost his match on the main roster, the chip on his shoulder. I know everything says, and I'm looking at one of the reviews I always look at for things, and let me just take it right here from WrestleRant, because I like to read the columnist corner and I like to look at the reviews on this when I refer to the show. So Karrion Kross, here's a typical standard podcaster, blogger, writer, everything like that. The IWC response to Karrion Kross. He said, man, so much can be said about this. And I've already seen people trying to defend the decision. First of all, advertising Kross's first appearance earlier in the evening wasn't the worst idea, but it would have gotten a bigger reaction had it been a surprise. That's merely nitpicking, but the rest is inexcusable. His entrance was lame without Scarlett, and it didn't have the bells and whistles it did at NXT. That's a huge part of his appeal, and without that fancy entrance, he's dead in the water. Then came the match itself. As a Hardy fan, I was stoked to hear him bring back his old entrance theme and get a great reaction from the crowd. The problem is, regardless of the fact he's a seasoned veteran, he's been booked to look like a loser since coming to Raw late last year. He hasn't been positioned as anyone important, so Kross losing to him means nothing. I'm not confident it will lead to a push for Hardy, and the fact he cheated as a babyface was weird. This is a whopping 2 minutes long, sending the message that Kross is no one special despite being the NXT champion. I'm a big proponent of waiting and seeing where things lead, but first impressions are everything. And I've heard that from other shows. Don, Tony, Anthony, Missionary Thomas definitely said first impressions. It really is everything about this. And we're basically told that this guy is a non-factor. Even if Kross kills him next week, what was gained from having him lose in his first match in over a year, because he was undefeated, in such forgettable fashion. Everything about this was awful, and that's exactly what's wrong with WWE today. And we could go to other things he might have said as well. But I just explained to you why it's opposite. And listen, if you want to call me out of my shit, shoot your shot. And go ahead and say what you want to say about what I said. I don't mind it. It's totally fine. You do it. You say what you want about it. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. Roughly 1 month away from SummerSlam, so now things will go ahead and move forward. Looking forward to that. And then we'll have NXT TakeOver also on the same weekend. So interesting. SummerSlam on a Saturday. TakeOver 36 will be on Sunday, August the 22nd. So we got that to also work about as well. And there's a whole lot. Oh, by the way, Nick Gage going on AEW Dynamite. That's huge next week. Chris Jericho coming out as Painmaker. Hey, they're moving along on the beat of their own drum. And all the AEW has to continue to do is continue to go and keep working on their mission. Keep moving forward and seeing what happens. And hey, if the stories come to fruition, and there's true confirmation that not only Daniel Bryan has signed with AEW, and then actually the other talk that you're also trying to put up and boost up is CM Punk having talks with AEW. If those two guys are signed, there's a lot of things to look and consider. We're going to have a lot to talk about. And I think AEW Dynamite will absolutely get more eyeballs in their screen. And I think that if Raw starts having some rough nights, maybe not now, but down the line, but there's a couple of nights that Dynamite's going to come very close to tying or getting close to the ratings numbers on a different night or surpassing Raw's ratings. Mark my words. Just saying like that. Great phone. Come back for another Wrestling is Real podcast because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at wrestlingisreal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network. Hey, it's King of Podcasts. I know I normally don't do this, but I'm going to ask you to help out. As you know, I'm an Uber driver. Now, this is not necessarily an ad for Uber in general, but I think being an Uber driver, enjoying what I do, doing Uber on a regular basis, where I do sometimes 3 to 4 days part-time, and I work, and I can make about $300, $400 a week doing that. But I also want other people to go ahead and take advantage of the same thing I do. Because Uber right now is hiring drivers like you to handle the growing demand for passenger rides. Earn as much money as you want, because you can make good money. Like if I had to go ahead and leave my full-time job, which I've thought about a couple of times because if things got kind of rough, money-wise, that'd be one thing I would do. I could see myself making up to $4,000 a month. That's not bad. I could definitely do that if given the opportunity. But the thing is, I work weekends. Sometimes I want to work at night. If I get all the movies on Friday nights, I'll just go ahead and pick up a ride and see what happens. Like I can do that. And if I have a couple hours free and I want to go and just make some extra money, I did that today. I made $50 because I enjoy it. The camaraderie of talking to the nice people when you're driving, helping people get where they need to go, whether it's the airport, take them food, take them other packages. Like I remember taking a young girl's ballet bag. A mom had me go take it to somebody's, to her father's house, something like that. Things like that. You're doing things that are going to help out everybody else. And, it's a chance to kind of just converse. You enjoy driving your car, you like to go and drive, you like to go ahead and throw your music on and, meet some new friends, or really just, network. Just, talk to people, small talk, things like that. While you're just making easy money, just to drive. Well, registration's easy. Just download the Uber Driver app and sign on to the Uber Driver app, and then use my code to go ahead and get brought on as a referral so that you can go ahead and start driving today. My code is the number 8. Letter M as in Mary, letter O as in Othello, letter L as in Larry, number 5. 8MOL5. Get paid every week according to hours of service during that week. So when you work and you do your rides for that week, then that Monday is when you're going to get paid. The money then will start getting transferred into your account, and then by Wednesday, the money's in your bank or wherever you want it. Or you can automatically get it express paid, and take a little bit of a fee. And if you need the money right then and now to pay for bills or whatever, you can do that too. So if you don't have a car, you can also rent from one of the rental services. Just remember, you got to be 21 years old, have a valid driver's license from the USA with your vehicle registration, own a 4-door vehicle, and have some driving experience at least 1 year. So take that all into account and look at driving for Uber. They've also started a $250 million driver stimulus to boost already high earnings for drivers. So download the Uber Driver app to your Apple or Android phone. Sign up using my code 8MOL5. Check it out for yourselves and enjoy driving with Uber like I do.